Welcome back to another Milk Crate Moment. I'm Jean Kuhn, and I'm the host here today. And today I brought on a guy that I met less than a month ago, right? And we shared a lot of intimate details with him at a group that I took to Nashville. And after hearing his story, I'm like, you know what? You're right for my podcast here, Milk Crate Moments. As somebody who's as young as he is, I never expected him to have a great business or milk crate moment that would, like most business owners do. But we're going to talk about his business in just a little bit. But Ethan Anderson, welcome to Milk Crate Moments.
Thanks for having me. I'm pumped.
Well, I'm super excited to have you here. And I do want to start the story by telling people how we got to know you.
Yeah.
So I took a group of clients to Nashville, and we do an intensive business training 3 times a year. And that was one of them. And I was looking for something that would teach us a lesson, right? What was the lesson there? So I thought it would be really super fun to take them to a recording studio. And I'd set it all up. I had no idea who our instructor, who our songwriter would be, but she guaranteed me that whoever it was, they would be awesome. And I don't think she really understands how awesome you are, Ethan. So Ethan, and just feel free to pop in here when you have something to add to this, but Ethan was our songwriter. Our group wrote a song and with Ethan, and we recorded it. And there was just I'm going to tell you at the end of this why that song has become really super important to me. So Ethan, I want you to tell us a little bit about that moment when you saw all these old chicks walk into the recording studio.
Yeah, so I'm a professional songwriter here in Nashville, Tennessee. That's sort of all encompassing. Excuse me. That's sort of all encompassing. So I do a lot of things. I write with other writers here in Nashville, but then I also work with, like, for lack of a better word, tourists that come to Nashville and want to have, the Nashville experience and want to get into a room and understand what it's like to understand what we do every day. So I work with Nashvox Studios, which is who you guys went through. And they'll just call me or shoot me a text message and say, hey, we've got a session for you, this date at this time. Do you want it? This is how many people it is. And that's pretty much all the information that I get is just a date and a time. And sometimes they tell me how many people it is. And then I just show up and my job is to write a song with the group for that day. So the group for that day was you guys. And again, there's no, I've never gotten anything in advance for one of these. That's just not really how it rolls. You're expected to show up and be able to craft a song. So basically, I show up and bring my guitar and just ask you guys what you want to write about. And oftentimes I'll do sort of one-on-one sessions where I'll be writing with somebody and I'll, ask them questions about their life. And, maybe they want to write a song about their grandpa that died, or maybe they want to write it about their dog or their child at home or whatever. Like, just ask them questions and figure out something that they're interested in. And because they're going to have a lot more fun writing it if it's something that they're genuinely interested in. And I've worked really hard to be a talented songwriter, and so I can make a song about just about anything.
And you did. And you did.
Yeah.
Right?
So you guys came in and I again didn't know any of this ahead of time, but it was a business conference. So it was you and I think 6 or 7 other women that all started their own businesses. And I believe you were all over the age of 50. So you guys were like, those are the things that we want to get in here. It's like we're all, kind of getting on, if you will. But we're all also.
I don't think we said we're getting on. I do think we said we're in our second act.
That was what we ended up going with. And, so, but just, I guess to say, like, we're all over the age of 50, but we're far from, like, we're rocking it. We have our own, we all started our own businesses. We're entrepreneurs. And we're kind of, these strong, independent women who we all started our own businesses, and we're proud of that. And we want to work that into the song. And so that was the song for the day. And it ended up turning out really good. And I really enjoyed hanging out and writing with you guys.
Well, we had so much fun hanging out with you. And really, I will tell you, you made the day, because I'm sure first of all, I know I have a strong personality, right? And
You
I
have to
know,
own a business. You have to.
yeah, and it was, and listening to your story, you told a little bit of a story, but I just thought that you just did such a great job. Number one, that you had ideas, that you were willing and interested in hearing what we had to say and helping everybody get their voice in there or something in the song that resonated with them. So
Yeah.
we'll talk about the song a little bit later, but normally I don't spend this much time before I ask somebody their milk crate moment. So
Okay.
when and I'm going to talk a little bit about the story you told us during that after you tell us your milk crate moment. So Ethan, lay your milk crate moment on us.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
first start by telling us how old you are.
I'm 21. I'm 21 years old. Um, yeah. I'll give, I guess, sort of the Cliff Notes version. So
Well, don't. I want you to tell it right. I want you to. I
I'll
want.
tell it right. I just mean like
Okay.
there's a lot of like there's a lot of because my milk crate moment happened when I was 19, but there's obviously a lot of like build up to that earlier in life. So
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
the notes of that and then get into the milk crate moment. But
Okay.
yeah, I had a really rough time when I was a kid. I ended up getting kicked out of the house when I was 15. Did a little bit of time in the county juvie and did some time in rehab programs and stuff like that. And I was just into some stuff that was really hard and that I shouldn't have been into. And when I was 16, I had a buddy at one of my rehab programs who played guitar and wrote his own songs. And I was like, dude, that's dope. I didn't even know that you could do that. And so I asked him, I was like, well, how do you write a song? And he was like, he was a total stoner. And he was like, man, you just say as much as you can with the least amount of words possible. And I was like, dope. I was like, that's all I needed to hear. And 16 years old, I started writing my own songs just about whatever I was going through because frankly, I didn't want to talk to anybody about what I was going through. And so I would just write songs about it. And fast forward, I kind of bounced around the country and ended up going to college. I graduated high school early somehow and then went to college, little small town in Missouri, little Christian college. And during my second semester was when COVID hit. So we all got sent back home. And I was just living in my mom's basement and like finishing up school on my laptop and I was miserable. And I ended up moving out. I got my own place. I got a job. But man, I was so depressed and I was making, really poor financial decisions and I was sort of getting back into a lot of the stuff that I shouldn't have been into and a lot of stuff that took me down when I was a kid. And um, anyways, I end up living in this dingy basement apartment with this dude that I went to high school with. And I'm working at McDonald's and I'm flat broke. I have no money. I'm super depressed. And I get a call one night while I'm at work and it's my roommate and he's like, hey man, not really working out, having a roommate. I need you and all of your stuff out by the end of tomorrow. And I was like, well, all right. So this McDonald's was like all shut down because of COVID. Nobody was allowed inside. So I told my boss, I was like, hey, I need a second. And I went out to the lobby and just cried and prayed. And I was like, I don't know what to do, man. And I called a couple of my friends and was like, hey, please pray for me. And as I was getting off the phone with a couple of my friends, I got like the very distinct impression to call this girl that lived in a neighboring town from where I went to college. And we had become really close friends while I was living down there. And I called her and just explained like basically how my life was falling apart. And the thought kind of occurred to me as I was talking. And I was like, hey, this is going to sound nuts, but what if I just moved to Nashville? I was like, I'm 19. I'm totally broke and depressed. I have nowhere to go. I have nothing. There's really nothing for me to lose here. And I literally said on the phone, I was like, if I'm going to be homeless, I might as well just be homeless in Nashville so I can go play music and stuff. And I was very used to people in my life at this point being sort of the 5-year plan type of people. And so that was kind of the advice that I was expecting to hear from her. And I will never forget this phone call. She was quiet for a minute on the other end of the phone. And she goes, I say, go for it. I mean, you're right. You literally have nothing to lose. I was like, well, that's a glass half full, I guess. And that was all I needed to hear. So I quit my job on the spot. No hard feelings, McDonald's. And I walked out and went back to my apartment, and a couple of my friends came over to help me pack up all my stuff. And I left that night at like 10:30 at night. I was 19 years old. Um, didn't tell anybody that I was leaving. Didn't say goodbye. Only person I told I was leaving was my grandma, because I asked her for gas money, and she made my dad. She made me promise not to tell my dad that she helped me. Um, and she gave me like $80, which was enough to make it to Nashville. So I I stopped in Springfield, which is the town where I went to school, and I stayed the night there. Woke up in the morning and saw some of my friends, saw that girl that I had called and her family, and they gave me. I didn't realize it. They gave me like a bag of Doritos and some ramen and stuff that they had at their house to try to help me out. And I was driving down the road to Nashville after that, and I reached over and unclipped it. That bag of Doritos was literally like a half-eaten bag of Doritos with a chip clip on it, and I unclipped the chip clip to open the bag, and a little wad of cash fell out. I guess they had gotten together while I wasn't looking, and hey, somebody said, "Oh, I've got a couple ones, and I've got a five, and I've got this." So just along the way, man, people helped me wherever they could, and I'll forever be grateful for that. And so, anyways, I showed up to Nashville, 19 years old, slept in the back of my car at the truck stop downtown, and then woke up in the morning and got a job at a McDonald's and just started going. So, yeah.
Uh, Ethan, that is such a great, normally one of the questions I ask is who helped you along the way out of your milk crate moment, right? And it sounds like your grandma and this family of the woman who, or the girl on the other end of the phone, kind of helped you out on the way over there to make that decision. So you get there, you get to Nashville, you're poor, you're 19, and you're depressed. What
Yeah.
happens when you get to Nashville after you get a job? Where are you staying? What's going on there?
Yeah, my first morning in Nashville, I woke up to like a tap 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 on my window, and it was the security guard with his baton like tapping on my window, and he was like, "Hey man, first night at the TA is always free, but now we've got your license plate, and it's $20 a night." And at this point, after paying for the gas to get to Nashville, I think I literally had like $20, maybe 30. Like that was all the money I had to my name. And so I was like, well, okay. But I knew that I couldn't do that. I was like, there's no way. So I drove to a couple different places. This was during COVID. So I drove to one McDonald's. They wouldn't let me in. I drove to a Taco Bell too, and they literally wouldn't let me in to fill out an application. Um, and I ended up driving down to this McDonald's in Green Hills, which is kind of south of downtown Nashville. I didn't know this at the time. I'd never been to Nashville before, but it's like a really, really nice area. It's one of the nicest areas in Nashville. And so I definitely ended up in a good spot. And I walked into that McDonald's, and I walked up to the manager, and I was like, "Hey, are you hiring?" I was like, "I will work harder than anybody else in here. I will start right now. Like, are you hiring?" And and he goes, "Yeah, man, when can you start?" And I was like, "No, literally like right now." I was like, "I was working at McDonald's 2 days ago. Like, I will change my clothes in your bathroom." I was like, "You don't even have to you don't have to train me. Like, I can start right now." And he was like, "You're hired." He was like, "Well, I have to send you to orientation." But he was like, "I think there's an orientation this afternoon if you want to go to that, and then you can start tomorrow." And I was like, "That's perfect," because working at McDonald's is kind of a perk of working there. You're not technically supposed to, but a lot of times you can just kind of make yourself some food and eat it. And so that way, at least, you have something to eat. Um, and so, anyways, I went to that orientation that afternoon, and I went up to one of the guys that was like leading the orientation afterwards, because he just seemed like a really nice guy. And I was like, "Hey man, like I'm Ethan, I'm brand new, like this is my first day in town. I love country music. I'm here to play country music, like where are some cool spots or whatever." And he was like, "Oh, no way, man. Like my name's Skip, and I play guitar and write songs too, and yada yada." So I'm talking with him, and he asked me the most southern question that I have ever been asked in my entire life. He goes, "Have you found a church family down here yet?" Which is such a southern question. There's no like, "Do you go to church?" It's like, "Have you found a church family down here yet?"
Uh-huh.
And I was like, "Yeah, man. Like I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints." So I was like, "We have buildings everywhere. I'm sure there's one down here somewhere." And he's like, jaw drops. He goes, "No way. So am I. And so are Phil and Vicky. And they own the McDonald's that you're going to be working at." I was like, "Shut up, dude." And he was like, "Yeah, you should."
Wow.
So he took me into their office, and he was like, "Hey guys, this is Ethan. He's about to start at the Green Hills store," and blah, blah, blah. And so we're all chatting it up or whatever. And somehow or another, Skip and I ended up out in the parking lot with Phil, and we were all like standing out there talking. And I opened like the back door of my car to pull out a guitar just to like show it to Skip. And we were standing out there. I brought a couple guitars with me. And so we were standing out in the parking lot playing guitar. And he like looked in the back of my car, and Phil is like standing right here. Phil is the owner. And he like looked in the back of my car. He was like, "Are you living in your car?" I had like the back seats down, a sleeping bag rolled out.
Mhm.
And he was like, "Are you living in the back of your car?" And I was like, "Heck yeah, dog." I was like, "It's an adventure." I was like, "I don't know. It's like I have a hammock too. I might go sleep at a park." And he was like, "Well, all right." And Skip and I were just hanging out in the parking lot. Phil went back inside, and he came back out like 5 minutes later. And I swear, this is 100% true, and this is the wildest thing that's ever happened to me. And he came out like 5 minutes later, and he goes, "Hey man, this is like, low key. We've never done this before. Don't go around telling people this, but we feel like it would be the right thing to do if you want to come stay with us until you get on your feet. You're more than welcome to, and then we can help you, find somewhere where you can go live." And dude, I cried in that parking lot. I was like, this is the craziest thing. It was like I took this giant leap of faith, and I just was like, look, God, I don't know like anything at all. I was like, I've never been here before. I have no money. I don't know anybody. I was like, all I can really do is show up. And that was when I learned in my life, like, that's all God asks of you, is just to show up. If that's everything that you've got is just to show up, just do that. And so anyways, these guys took me in, and I ended up staying at their house down in Brentwood for a couple weeks, and they introduced me to a landlord who also went to our church. And he was like, "Yeah, man, when do you want to move in?" And I was like, whenever I can, I guess. And he was like, "That's cool, man. Like, you're a friend of Phil and Vicky." He was like, "You don't have to pay a deposit. Like, you just, move in. Like, you're friends with them, you're friends with me." And so just like, it was very, I think serendipitous is the word I'm looking for. Like, it was a total God thing, every single step of it. And it was really, really amazing. So, yeah.
Ethan, that I totally believe in that serendipitous piece there. And that when you take that, sometimes you just have to take that first step of faith. I call it the Indiana Jones principle, right?
Ooh,
You take that first step, and then the next step appears, right? So, and then you take another step, and then the next step appears,
go
and you're,
rewatch.
say it again.
I said I need to go rewatch that movie, I guess.
Yeah, the first one. I don't know, it might have been the second one. I don't know which one it was. But it really is that faith piece, that when you know you're doing the right thing, and you know that this is where you wanna be and where you wanna go. I talk to business owners about that all the time, about taking that first step. I kinda wanna come back to, you had said something to us when we were in the room, and you said something about, like, a week or 2 before, you had just quit all your jobs to focus on music
Mhm.
solely? Tell me a
Yeah.
little bit about that.
Yeah, so I've been in Nashville for almost 3 years now. In that time frame, I have done everything from I worked at McDonald's, I sold Wi-Fi, I used to dig graves, I did lawn and landscaping, I was a bouncer at a bar, I worked at a jewelry store, like fixing watches and selling people jewelry. I've been a bar back, I've been a bartender, I've been a server, I've been a sound tech.
Songwriter?
Yeah, I'm sure there's things in there that I missed, but I mean, seriously, just about everything. I worked at a grocery store. I was in charge of the perishable department or something. Just everything, all over the place. And so to me, like that was, I don't know. You come to Nashville and you get a job and you figure it out. And I was working. So probably this would have been, so it's June now, and this would have been February, March. Um, I was working as a bouncer at this bar downtown, and then I was also kind of working part time at the jewelry store. And I was going into work one Friday night uh, to the bar, and I just had this like feeling in the pit of my stomach. I was like, I should walk away from this. Like, I just got like the strongest impression to quit my job, and I was like, nah, man, like that's crazy. I was like, I shouldn't quit my job. And so I kind of pushed it aside, and I worked that night, and we ended up having the biggest fight in the history of that bar. It was, we didn't know this at the time, but apparently it was gang related. So it was literally like people wearing blue versus people wearing red, like Bloods and Crips in our
Oh,
bar.
wow.
And so we had like 35 dudes trying to kill each other. And so we all are like ripping people off of each other and throwing them out of the bar and just trying to get all of them out the bar. But we don't even, I mean, there's like 6 or 7 of us bouncers, and there's like 35 of these guys. And so we are not having a super fun time trying to figure this out. And a couple of these guys, we kick them out, and they went to their cars, and then they start coming running back. And we're all kind of looking at each other like, oh shit, like we know where this goes. And so my boss, who was the only, I think was the only one of us at the time who was like strapped up, he kind of went to the front to go meet these guys. And they like start running up, and they start tugging on their waistbands and shit. And he like looks back at us. He's like, all right, fuck it. And he pulls out his gun, and he starts pointing at all these guys. And he's like, everybody leave. Everybody's done. He starts screaming. He's like, everybody get the fuck out. And so then like the other 3 of us were like, oh shit. So I run to my car, and luckily I had a plate carrier in my car that night. It's like a bulletproof vest. So I threw on my vest, and then I strapped up and loaded up magazines and stuff. And we all went back into the bar. It was like, felt like I was at war or something. We all went back to the bar, and we're shutting everything down and kicking everybody out of this bar. And the fear was that they were going to come back. They were either going to come back in the bar with guns, or they were just going to go, more than likely, they would just go by and do a drive-by. So we got everybody out of the bar except for like the bartenders and the bouncers, basically. And we took all the bartenders and kind of shoved them in like the office and the kitchen and stuff to keep them away from the windows. And then the rest of us basically like took up defensive positions, like 4 of us around the bar. And it was horrible. I did not leave the bar that day until I think like 5:30 in the morning. And we had to like escort the band members to their cars and take bartenders to their cars and stuff, because we thought these guys were going to come back. Luckily they didn't come back. But man, it was crazy. And it was wild to me that like I had that distinct feeling ahead of time where I was like, I should walk away from this. And I didn't. And so then the next day I went back into work, and I had an even stronger feeling where I was like, hey man, like you should not be doing this. This is not worth, I think I was getting paid like $20 an hour. I was like, dude, like this is just not worth $20 an hour. And so anyways, I went back into work that night, and I'm still kind of pushing it aside, like, no, I got to do this, it's my job or whatever. And I guess there had been some sort of like mix up with like paperwork or licensing. I don't know what happened, but there was a few of us, I guess, that they were like, hey, we're figuring out some stuff with all the paperwork, like with you guys. So like some of you are good to work still, but some of you can't work until you do this or we get this or whatever. And so I was one of the ones that they were like, you can't, they were like, we need you to clock out because we can't have you working until we make sure that, all your paperwork is in order. And so it was interesting, man. It was like, I was specifically told to walk away from this, and I didn't walk away from it. And then God just kind of closed the door, and he was like, hey man, like, no, like stop. I'm telling you, like, I have something for you, but you can't go do it if you're still doing this. And so I finally like threw my hands up in the air, and I was like, all right, like that's it then, and that's okay. And so I quit that night. And then I was like, well, that's cool. I'll just go work at the jewelry store, full time. Um, and then some stuff ended up going down at the jewelry store that I can't really talk about, but it just ended up becoming a work environment where I didn't feel, I just didn't feel like that was a place that I should be in. And so I felt really called to walk away from that too. And so I did. So I had already quit my job at the bar, and then I walked away from my job at the jewelry store as well. And at this point, I literally just threw my hands up in the air, and I was like, God, I have no idea how this is going to go. I don't, it was like he was calling me to do music full time, but I was like, I don't even know if I can do music full time. Like everybody here would love to do music full time. There are very few people that get to do music full time, and it's really pretty much people that are playing down on Broadway and stuff. And I do not want to go play on Broadway. So I ended up just walking away and basically throwing my hands up and being like, all right, I quit. I did what you told me to, and I quit my jobs. And now it's up to you. And so that was in March, I think, or maybe beginning of April. It's now June, and I have yet to have a real job since then for longer than I think I worked back at the jewelry store for a couple hours one day. But I've been doing music full time, and I mean, opportunities that I would have never expected to pop up just seem to pop up at just the right time. And so working with Nashvox is a perfect example. I was just writing over there one day. They have like rooms that writers here in Nashville use. And so I was just writing, and the lady that owned the studio came in and was like, hey, how would you like to do like songwriting sessions here? And I was like, yeah, that sounds dope. And so I started doing those, and those actually pay surprisingly good money. I started getting offered cover gigs to go do that make money. I got contacted by the restaurant where I used to be the bar back, literally just the bar back. And they were like, hey, don't you do music now? And I was like, yeah. They were like, will you come back? Will you come back and we'll just pay you to book our music and just host the rounds, and that's all you have to do? And I was like, yeah. So just crazy opportunities that have presented themselves. It's wild to me, and it still blows my mind that like God tells you to do something and it doesn't make any sense. And a lot of times, like, you don't even really know how to do it. Like, I was like, I don't know how to do music full time. I didn't know that was like really a thing that I could do. And it's just crazy, man. When God wants you to do something, when he calls you to do something. I heard a quote the other day: God doesn't call the qualified, he qualifies the called. Right? So he'll tell you what to do, and then you just got to trust him that you're going to figure it out.
Well, that is an amazing story. And you didn't tell us all of that. You just, in briefly passing, you said, hey, I
Yeah.
quit my job, all my jobs 2 weeks ago or 3
Yeah.
weeks ago, and I'm doing music full time. And I was just so impressed because at that time I didn't know that you were 21 years old. And it's like, and I thought, wow, that doesn't seem like something a 21-year-old would do.
Yeah.
Right. So you must have an older soul. That's all I'm going to say. That which I do. I think you have an old soul. So kind of
I
cool.
want to write a song about that. People have told me that for forever, and now I kind of get it. Like, people used to tell me that, and I would be like, yeah, I've always gravitated towards like hanging out with people that are way older than me, because honestly, kids my own age are just kind of dumb sometimes. So I've just always gravitated towards hanging out with older people and having conversations with them because they're more knowledgeable and whatever. And anyways, people have told me that forever. Like, you're an old soul. But now I get it. Like, I'm 21 years old, and I'm like, dude, I'm going to bed at like 9:30 p.m. I'm reading Hemingway novels in the candlelight, and I would much rather do that than go to the bar. I've also been sober for like 2 years and some change. So like, I do not.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So I do not feel like a 21-year-old at all.
Well, I am super excited that you were here today and to share your Milk Crate moment. So what are you doing right now, and how can people get in touch with you?
Yeah. So right now, I'm really kicking hard into kind of recording mode and putting out music. So so far this year, I've put out, I think, 19 songs. 2 of them were on a little single project called North Carolina, which is dope. It ended up getting streamed like 50 or 60,000 times so far. And then I also just put out a 17 song acoustic album that I recorded in the stairwell of a hotel parking garage downtown. The entire album was recorded in the stairwell of that parking garage with one microphone. It's just me and my guitar just standing there playing songs that I've written, and just being honest and just bearing my heart and bearing my soul for people. And we literally just ran an extension cord into the stairwell and hooked up a laptop, and that was how we recorded the whole album. And it's called The Stairwell Tapes. I'm working on the track list, and we actually just started recording The Stairwell Tapes Volume 2. I've got a single that I'll be pushing to radio and pushing to Spotify playlists and stuff like that called Hung Over You that comes out July 14th. So that's the next single to come out. and then I've got kind of a couple other things that are coming down the pike, and then hopefully the Stairwell Tapes Volume 2 will come out sometime in October, and
So
it'll
let's
probably.
go ahead. I'm sorry. Finish.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say it's the Stairwell Tapes Volume 2, just to get you excited. So the Stairwell Tapes is 17 songs. The Stairwell Tapes Volume 2 is probably going to end up being like 25. It's a massive, massive project, and it's a really good look into who I am as a person and who I am as an artist. So I'm excited.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. Well, a couple weeks ago, I reached out to you, right? And I'm like, I could not stop thinking about the song because it really just, that chorus that we came up with just really touched my soul, right? And I could not stop thinking about it. Every word that we wrote really embodied who we are as older female business owners.
Yeah.
And I had just told somebody I'm not going to do a 3-day event this year. I've done one for the last 3 years and I'm not doing one this year. And it was mostly because I haven't been inspired by something to create around, right?
Wow.
And so I started thinking, so this has just been a month now, right? I started thinking about that song and I called you up and what did I say? I called you up and what did I say?
Yeah, you asked if we could record. Are you looking for me to say something specific?
Yeah.
I don't
You
remember
no, I just
specifically.
wanted to know
remember
what
you
I
said that
asked you to
really
do.
loved
Yeah. Tell us.
to record it to a professional studio level. Yeah.
Yeah, to studio level with a whole band behind it and a female artist, because I'm not lying that none of us should have been singing that day, right? None of us had the
Fair.
the tone that we should have been singing.
Hey,
So
singing's
I'm
forever.
and you gave me a price that I thought was unbeatable, right? So I was super happy with the price. And now I've created a 3-day event all around that song, right? So the conference is going to be called the Second Act Conference.
Oh, that's so awesome.
So,
I didn't know.
and yeah, so the conference is going to be called the Second Act Conference, and it is for women over 50 who are in their second act, and either it's the second act of business, right? That's really the piece that we're looking at, because if they're in their second act and they're looking for a sewing circle or a knitting circle, that's not going to be for them, right? But if they're looking to kick ass in business, it's absolutely going to be the place for them. And you told me you would come.
Yeah, I'll be there. Yep.
And you come and you will entertain up for us one night, and you're going to teach everybody our song, right? Yeah. Ethan, I'm super excited about that. And my clients who were there in Nashville are like giddy over this, right? They can't wait to hear the song either. So first of all, thank you, because, oh man, this is a little emotional because I didn't have the inspiration before. And when I took my clients to Nashville, I never expected to find it there. So I don't know why that's making me a little emotional. So, and it's because of you. You helped us create something that we had no idea how to create it. They had no idea that they were even doing it, right? When I pulled in that day, one of the women who got there early sent me a video text that just said, "Oh, hell no." Right. So
that's awesome. Oh my God.
Yeah. So I'm really grateful. I'm really grateful to you. So, and I'm super excited that you're going to be at the Second Act Conference, and it's going to be an amazing time. So I'm so happy that you were here today to share your story, because I do want people to know who you are. And sometimes too, I love what did they say? When the student is ready, the master appears, or the teacher appears. And I love the fact that since you've made that decision, that all of the teachers and the masters and the people to help you have shown up when they were supposed to, so that you could take that next step of faith. So yay for you.
Yeah. Thank you. I mean, I'm super grateful, man. I mean, it's, I'm not going to lie. It's definitely, doing music full time is a lot. was a lot more exhausting than I was expecting it to be. It's a lot. And honestly, like there are days I never expected there to be days when I didn't want to do it. Like I didn't know that was part of the deal. I really didn't. But I think, you know, people hate it when I say this, but I say like the older I get, you know, I I'm learning. It's one of those things, man, where whether it's starting your own business or whether it's me figuring out how in the world I'm gonna do music full time or whether it's a marriage, I mean, whatever it is, like there's gonna be days when you really don't want to do it and you are not stoked to be there. And what it really comes down to, I think, is who on those days is willing to be there anyways, right? Who's willing to
Exactly.
who's willing to show up when they don't want to, and who's willing to work through it. So anyways, I really enjoyed writing that song with you guys. I was actually just talking with the producer about it, so I'm pumped to go get the version of it done. And yeah, it's and I'm looking forward to the conference as well. I haven't been to Chicago since I was like a little kid, so I'm excited.
What, like 7 years ago?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just teasing you. But you know what? It's really funny that you keep saying this. You said whether you're in business or whether you're writing music full time, my friend, that's all business. You are self-employed now, right?
I know.
Writing music is your business.
Yeah, I'm still wrapping my head around that for sure.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm super excited about that for you because
Me too.
it will allow you to have everything that you want, whether it be time freedom,
Yeah.
financial freedom. There, you don't quit. Like literally, don't quit.
Yeah.
So 34 years, I'm sorry, 38 years, and I've not had a job because I chose to be self-employed.
Wow.
I know, like,
That's awesome, man.
so don't quit. All right, my friend, thank you so much for being here today. We went way over time, but I didn't care because I was so involved in your story, right? I could not let that go. And I knew you had more to say. And I'm so happy that you shared it here with us today. So you're probably one of the more interesting people I've talked to. So take that for what it's worth.
Well, I expected us to go over time. I enjoy talking. That's usually how it goes. And thank you so much for having me. I'm really pumped to be here today.
My pleasure. All right. We'll see you in October. Talk to you soon.
Yes, ma'am. Have a good
Bye.
one.